Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. It's our online-only segment special for you. Thanks for joining us. Joined by VFL's aplenty. We got Mike Stoll down there. We have Daniel Hood, Will Overstreet, Bobby Scott. We got every decade covered here, as a matter of fact. So thanks to all of you guys for being here. This segment brought to you by Smokin' Joe's and, of course, Blue Smoke. Blue Smoke Cigar is their newest offering from Smokin' Joe's. The original store on Paper Mill, they've moved it out to West Knoxville. It's right across from Rafferty's, kind of there in the North Peters Road area. It's in a strip mall. You can find it. It's what it is a club. It's a lounge. You got lockers. They've got poker tables. They've got the golf games where you actually take your club and hit a real ball, and it tells you where it would go on the screen. They got a meeting room, TVs of all kind. If you enjoy a cigar in the afternoon or evening, that's the place to go. Blue Smoke Cigar, and of course the existing Smokin' Joe store is down in Alcoa. So if you are a cigar aficionado, those are the places to go. Smokin' Joe's and Blue Smoke Cigar here in Knoxville. Okay, overtime segment today. If Tennessee runs the table and Florida loses, which most of us think will happen, more than likely Alabama's going to be waiting on them in Atlanta. First of all, do you want another shot at these guys, or did you have your fill yesterday?
I mean, if I've got a chance to play them again, I mean, I want to beat them, and I'm ready to go to Atlanta right now.
All right, you're all former players. Everybody have the same feeling? Give them another shot.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that'll help is you're going to have an extra week in there to prepare, and Coach Jones coming off that extra week is. I'm pretty sure he's only lost, I think, 2 games in his coaching career coming off that week.
I think just in general, I mean, it's always harder to beat a team the second time because whatever you did in the first game, why change it, right?
Right.
I mean, that worked. The other team says, we didn't do the right game plan. We've got to change everything. So the winning team comes out and sees an entirely different setup, team, and what they're going to be doing.
Also, if you're not going to get everybody back. Cam Sutton, there's talk of him trying to come back. That's highly unlikely. Reeves Maben had surgery, done. Kirkland should be back. He's got the high ankle sprain, was game time yesterday. We'll see. Unfortunately, that's an injury you can keep re-injuring. Your offensive line, let's say you get most of those guys back, okay? And you go into that game with the team that most of us thought you would have yesterday. Malik Foreman, you got the secondary. I don't think it's 49-10. I don't think you play these guys again. If you're healthy, now I'm not saying you're going to beat them. I don't know that anybody's going to beat that Alabama team. But I don't see it being 49-10. I think Tennessee could give them a game if they go down there healthy. Am I smoking funny herbs?
No, I think they're going to be much improved. Like Will said, Alabama's going, hey, we ran 49 points on them. We're not changing anything. Tennessee's going to go back and they're going to look at the film and they're going to coach. When you see this, here's your adjustments. So they're going to be able to coach these younger kids up. And the other thing about yesterday's game, this season we've seen how far Tennessee has come, right? That is where Tennessee has evolved. Yesterday was an indication of how far Tennessee has to go still, right, to be at the pinnacle. We've made tons of progress. Yesterday was a measuring stick. Now, if we get back in again, I think, again, now you see in that SEC championship how much further they've progressed, right? So you're continuing to build and restore your program.
Measuring stick, but not a completely 100% take it to the bank measuring stick, simply because they had their guys healthy. You had about 19 guys missing. Right. But you're right in terms of
that is college excellence. This is what we if
it's
you
the best in the nation year in year out.
If you want to be a national champion, that's what you got to look like,
yeah.
right? We're an SEC competing team now. Mm-hmm. We're at the top of our division, but now that's if you want to be a national championship, that's what you got to look like.
Well, that's the thing, guys. I mean, we went into this season and the projection was 10-2. Win the East was the goal. All that's still in front of you.
Yes,
that didn't get washed away. We went into the 4-game stretch. Remember coming out of that Ohio game? You're beaten up. You don't look that great. We went into that 4-game stretch saying this team's closer to 0-4 than they are 4-0. They went 2-2 and they won the 2 that you had to win. They beat the teams in the East. And yet, because you got blown out yesterday, it's that fog of blowout that falls over you. It's like, I don't remember anything. These guys all suck. How much did yesterday's game change your opinion of this year's team, or did it?
It didn't change my opinion at all. I mean, just frankly, because if I looked at the season, before the season, what 2 games do you lose if you're going to go 10-2? Texas A&M and Alabama. Those were the games you're going to lose. They lost those games. They lost this last one a lot worse than you wanted them to.
Right.
But, you know, if they only win by 14, what is everybody saying today? They got blown out because it was the end of a tough stretch where you had a bunch of injuries. I'm not saying even if you had all your guys, you beat Alabama.
Right.
But this team still has everything to be 10-2. It's just they were at the rough end of the stick right then.
And at the end of the day, look at Alabama last year. When they were at the end of that 8-game stretch
Yep.
playing a Tennessee team coming off of it, they go out there and almost lose a game to a Tennessee team. And so and that's why, honestly, next week, Texas A&M playing Alabama, I bet you that's a one-possession game going into it because you got a bye week for A&M playing an 8-game-in-a-row Alabama.
Team that's having to get up for another emotional game. Bobby Scott, did that change your view of the team at all yesterday?
I think it has to a little bit, but if we can get people back, I think we can compete with them. Whether we can beat them, I don't know. But I think that we'll be able to compete with them better.
All right. Well, let me ask you this one. Well, let's see. I'll jump ahead. We talked about that. Jalen Hurd. I'm jumping around here. Got a lot of texts yesterday, and I know Jimmy Himes took some calls on his show Sunday morning from people saying that Hurd's not made for this system. Hurd isn't the right running back. You've had people on my show say he shouldn't be playing running back. He should be playing H-back or tight end. I disagree. And the main reason is, let's put this up. I do think he's better. He would be better in an I formation. I don't think there's anybody that can deny that. But the idea that he can't play in this system, let's do a little reminder here, and I apologize to my director, Chris Lane, who I threw this on. I sprung it on him. All right, in 2014, he rushed for 899 yards. Nobody was complaining last year when he ran for 1,300 yards. 1,300 yards, 4.6 per carry last year. I don't remember anybody saying he's not a running back, he should be a tight end, he can't play in this system. Now you've seen a big drop in the yards per carry, and that is updated. But he's at 20. He needs about 400 yards, about 350 yards to become the all-time leading running back rusher in the history of Tennessee football. To me, the idea, I get that it's not the perfect system. I get that he's not having a great year. I get that Alvin Kamara has looked better at times. But I'm not going to go so far as to forget, it's the neuralizer from Men in Black. I never saw you've always been terrible.
Your offense.
No, he was pretty good.
Your offensive line is probably a big part of, his lack of yards this year.
He needs bigger holes, I think, than Kamara does. Is that
Well,
safe to
yep.
say that Kamara's a little bit better in a zone scheme where you're doing the cutback?
Yeah.
That's not
And-
Hurd's typical style, even though he went for 1,300 last year.
And to say Kamara may be better for this system is not saying Jalen Hurts not a running back and not a good running back. I mean, that's the difference of complimenting one guy doesn't mean we're insulting the other guy. I mean,
Yes.
so I mean, let's don't take that and go too far with it. There are guys that are made better for some systems. We always say if this was an I formation system, Jalen Hurd would be a much better back at this position in this system than Kamara would. So you can't go overboard. Pretty much, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. In this case, people have swung way too far to the other side.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's a very good running back. I saw him yesterday, up close on the field. He's a big dude. I mean, I looked up to him. I don't think I've ever looked up to
you're not a small guy.
I don't think I've ever looked up to a running back, right? And so, again, I think the offensive line's a big key in that, right? I mean, again, I talked about it on the show. Your offensive line, other than your center, has had 5 starts. Okay, you're going against an outstanding Alabama front. His numbers are down a little bit because they've had a banged-up offensive line. They're still trying to find and gel within their positions. And you got a quarterback that's a little bit more dynamic this year. He's doing some more things. He's throwing the ball better. Yeah, and so now you're taking him out of the factor, and you've got Kamara, who is more dynamic out in the flat, doing the cutbacks. And so, you go with what's hot and what's going well right now. If you watch at the end of the season as we're trying to beat a Vanderbilt or a Kentucky or somebody like that, he's going to get a lot of grind down carries because he is going to beat on those guys later in the season.
He got 13 carries yesterday. Kamara got 8. Kamara was targeted with passes. You look at what Kamara doing against Texas A&M. Will, I know you had to be grinning as I was when they opened up and they had Hurd and Kamara on the field at the same time. Then they did the second play and they moved him around. Then they moved him around for the third play because they were in the hurry. I was like, okay, this is good. And it kind of went away. But I do think in that kind of game, I probably would have gotten the ball to Kamara more. Especially, you ride the hot hand, so to speak. and he was awfully hot coming off Texas A&M. I don't know. His numbers weren't that much better than Hurd's, to be honest. He averaged 3 yards a carry instead of 2.3. It's not like he was lighting it up, but I would have given him a few more touches because he's the kind of guy that can go 60 yards in one play.
Well, and I'll be honest, I thought in this game it was not more about running between the tackles and being dominant there. I think you had to do it enough to say we're going to do it.
Right.
But it was about how do you get the guys out in the flats and those kinds of areas with the ball away from the big defensive line and linebackers and make them make a miss on a safety to make a big play.
See, that's what I thought the team should have done early in that ball game, is using him. Stop trying to run on first down. Throw that 4-yard pass and let him make 3 or more, and then you're in that 2nd and 3 situation that you look for.
Now, the problem is they did try 5 first-down passes before they pulled Dobbs, and they got 8 total yards out of those 5 plays. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree. I would have liked to see more crosses, a few more slants, stuff they did against Texas A&M. But I still don't know that it would have worked any better.
That's true, because you're playing a much better defense.
Yeah, but I do think you would have had better shot at doing that. Okay, you couldn't run wide against Alabama. That was not going to happen. They're too fast. And no one's going to run up the gut on Alabama all day long with much success. You had, on first downs, 3.3 yards per carry. You want 4. 3.3 is probably about as good as anybody's going to do against that Bama front.
Here's the thing. In the first drive, they were shifting and making guys move, and you saw Alabama having communication issues. Their linebackers were going, you go here, you go, and moving around. I never saw them have that issue again because there wasn't a lot of motion. There wasn't a lot of difference. It was what we come out in is what we're about to run. That's an issue. I mean, that's continue with this coaching staff. There's a strong frustration with that being a problem.
Okay, and here's why. It's because you've got a true freshman at right tackle. You've got 2 freshmen over on your left side. And you've got a center who's not used to communicating with those kids. And so calling those audibles at the line, what are you going to get? And I think that had a lot to do with it, unfortunately.
So it handcuffs.
Yeah, it does. I think it handcuffs Dobbs because you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out how to run a play, how to call things. Do you audible? Does that true freshman who's been on campus, for a couple of months go?
Still trying to find the library.
Oh, yeah. Okay, he claps his hand twice. He clears it off, and then he calls an audible. It just jumped. He claps his hand twice. So I think again the injuries I think plague into that. Again, they were moving that ball that first drive because they were doing formations and different things.
But
I would love to see Tennessee do that more because it does cause confusion. Maybe you see that in Atlanta, and Tennessee does.
And that's
Depending
that's
on
a
who's on
very
the offensive line.
very valid point. I guess my frustration is that continues to be when you have the same offensive line, non-offensive.
Yeah.
It's not a theme of that happened this one game because of injuries.
And let me ask you this, guys: how much of that? I think anything that people don't like, they go play calling, DeBoard. I don't know that it's all play calling, DeBoard. I think some of it is game plan / system, and that's Butch Jones' system. Now, we don't know. We don't know exactly what that percentage is, but am I off base in suggesting we've seen these types of things? Texas A&M was really the one exception to the rule. Everything else, Florida second half, they went more formation. But for the most part this year, you've gotten the same type of thing. And I don't think it's necessarily play calling as much as it is game planning earlier in the week. This is what we're going to do. Fair or not?
That's fair. Yeah, go ahead, Will.
I think it's fair, and I think if you pull that number up again of why Jalen Hurds' numbers are down, it's because there's a book on this team at this point. Guess what? Hurds in the game, and especially early on when Dobbs hadn't pulled the ball out, it's not a factor. Doesn't come out. First down, Hurds in the game, Hurds getting the ball. Line up, play, run, heavy.
Yeah. Offensive scheme, you look at, we have started slow in the first half.
Yep.
Why is that? Well, are we maybe we're a little bit of a slow starting team, but the other thing is, are we so uncreative with our plays early on? We're just, basic formation, see if we can do it, and then all right, we can't do it. Let's start doing some creative things. Let's start throwing the ball down the field. Dobbs step up, do the different things. Are we opening up because we have to open it up later in the game?
Yeah, and I just wonder, again, you look at the use, let's just break it down as simple as the use of Hurd and Kamara. We've been crying all year, put them on the field at the same time. Put your best players on the field at the same time. You look at Hurd's the one that gets the majority of the carries. I don't think that's just DeBoard sitting up in the booth making that decision. because I'm guessing that if Butch Jones is sitting there and they're running into a brick wall and something's not working, he's going to easily get onto a headset and say, hey, let's get Kamara more involved. My guess is that's what they decide on Monday, that's what they plan on, and that's how they're going to use them, like it or not. I don't, but I think I would draw more of a line to that with the scheme game plan than play calling. Two different things, and I think a lot of times they just get thrown together. But I think you go in if you never do something, that tells me it's not part of the game plan.
I put it this way: I'd watch Alabama's tape on offense,
And do that.
and I'd say, hey, why don't we copy a few of those plays, and why don't we have Kamara, and why don't 87 instead of being their tight end, that be Jalen Hurd for our kickout guy?
Yeah.
Because that play would work all day long and 6 times on Sunday.
Very quickly, I'll let you finish up. We didn't get into it in depth during the show. We don't have time for everything, but you were very impressed with the way they schemed Tennessee's defense and took advantage. They knew where the weaknesses are. They exploited them. It's pick the weakest spot on the other guy's team, pick that weak spot on defense, and attack it again and again and again. Tell me
Until
what
they
you
stop
impressed-
it.
Yeah, until they stop it. Tell me what impressed you about what they did.
Every big run with their quarterback was done by one play and one set. Now, it came out in several different formations, but basically it got the Tennessee linebackers checking heavy over to one side with the tight end, and that tight end ran across the field underneath to basically come to block the other side. And he actually ignored the first defender, who was the defensive end, because they said, our quarterback with his speed, that's the block on that guy. So that their tight end ends up leading on our safety, who was late coming up to provide run
Todd
play
Gillis Jr.,
support, and they just blew us out. And that happens if you want to watch the tape. I can tell you on any big quarterback run, that's what happened.
And I'll also say this, once you're down, and we can disagree about this, but once you're down to non-NFL level guys, a Darren Kirkland can follow the flow and recover. He's got a better chance of recovery speed than your sixth guy who's not an NFL prospect. So I think that also, not only are they exploiting and moving you around, but they're doing it against guys who they can't afford to have any mental lapse at all.
And they were lined up, I think, incorrectly. You can't say it for a fact, but the linebackers were too far shifted over.
I think you have to look at it. When you look at the NFL, the reason the plays don't work in the NFL is because there's too much speed. And so now Tennessee has no NFL speed. A play like that's going to work every time, like Will said.
Well, that's the question. How many of these teams are you going to face that are going to start bringing these same things back to you if you don't get some of these guys healthy on defense? I mean, if you go the rest of the way with your fifth and sixth string linebackers, I know I'm hitting that one. That's because if there's any other team in the conference that's down to their fifth and sixth string linebacker, point it out to me. I'm guessing they will suck too. Give up 700 yards rushing in 2 weeks. That ain't good. I had some people, we'll close with this. I had some people that were sending me tweets. I don't want to crap on these guys. They're college football players. I'm on a talk show. So these guys done more. That's fantastic. All right. But I had some people saying, see, I've been telling you, Elliott Berry should have been on the field all along. Look at the plays he's making. When you're giving up 400 yards rushing, it's not the day to brag on the linebackers. Not the day to brag on the linebackers or the defensive line. All right. Mike Stoll, great to have you with us. Daniel Hood, always good to have you. Will Overstreet, same thing. Bobby Scott, my friend. Agree to disagree. Good to have you here.
Always do.
Agree to disagree on the whole friend thing. All right. Very good. We'll see you next Thursday at 7 o'clock on Fox 43. See you next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6. Thanks to these guys. Thanks to you.